WWE has always been known for its thrilling matches, spectacular performances, and backstage stories full of surprises. But not every superstar is treated fairly. Some wrestlers, once at the peak of their careers and adored by fans, have left WWE in the worst ways imaginable. In today's video, we'll revisit these shocking firings, revealing the darker side of wrestling, where fame doesn't always guarantee respect. 1. CM Punk, the decision to leave and the shocking day he was fired. What happened after CM Punk left WWE in 2014 felt like something straight out of a dramatic movie, and the reasons leading to that decision were just as chaotic. This wasn't a simple parting of ways, it was a seismic event that shook the wrestling world. At the time, it was clear from the way Punk was performing that he was completely burnt out and in desperate need of a break. Yet even when injured, he wasn't allowed the chance to properly recover. Today, Punk might be eager to compete again, but back then WWE seemed firmly committed to the philosophy that sometimes less is more. The breaking point came one January night on Raw, when Punk abruptly walked out just hours before the show went live. WWE, of course, still had to send him his official termination papers. But the moment they chose to deliver them turned the situation into a devastating blow. They sent the release notice on the very day CM Punk got married. No matter which side you're on, ruining a day that personal and important is hard to justify. It felt like an intentional twist of the knife at a time when tensions had already reached their peak. This incident froze the relationship between Punk and WWE for nearly a decade. Only after his run in AEW did the door finally crack open for reconciliation. Still, the story stands as a powerful reminder. No matter how deep the disagreements, there are lines that should never be crossed, and for CM Punk, that line was shattered on one of the most significant days of his life. 2. Mickie James, when a legend was treated like she had no worth. Among the most controversial firings in WWE history, Mickie James' story in 2021 stands out at the very top. What made the situation even more shocking was the fact that Mickie was far from being an outdated veteran, or someone who no longer brought value. She was still a major name, influential both inside and outside the ring, and a symbol of professionalism. Yet, everything happened so abruptly it was almost unbelievable. With nothing more than a short, blunt notice, Mickie's contract was terminated without any prior warning. And the worst part? Her remaining personal belongings at the company were sent back to her, in a trash bag. For any employee, this would already be deeply insulting, but for a legend like Mickie James, it was downright unacceptable. Mickie openly shared her experience on social media, and the backlash from fans forced WWE to issue a public apology. Several other wrestlers also came forward, confirming they had been treated in a similar way, fueling even greater outrage. The incident became a glaring example of the lack of respect in WWE's management practices at the time. Later, under new leadership, WWE made significant backstage policy changes. One notable example was the introduction of a code of conduct for newcomers to ensure proper respect for veteran talents. Even so, the memory of Mickie receiving her memorabilia in a garbage bag remains an ugly stain, a stark reminder that reputation and dedication should never be discarded through such disrespectful actions. 3. Emma, from rising star to an unjust dismissal. The moment Emma was repackaged into the Emelina character had fans buzzing with curiosity. WWE heavily promoted the transformation, promising a shocking reinvention. Yet, just a few weeks later, they abruptly reverted her to her old Emma persona. No official explanation was ever given, though rumors spread that management believed she couldn't fully deliver the new role. But in this profession, the true test is finding a way to turn any challenge into an opportunity. That sudden decision wiped out the momentum she had spent years building. Before joining the main roster, Emma had been one of the quiet forces behind the women's wrestling wave in NXT. She wasn't just technically skilled, she had a genuine ability to connect with the crowd, making her matches memorable and impactful. That's why what followed made her story all the more bitter. The turning point came when Emma was accused of shoplifting from a Walmart store. The news spread like wildfire, and WWE wasted no time in announcing her release. The problem was, the incident hadn't been properly investigated. Not long after, the truth came out. It was all a misunderstanding. Emma hadn't intentionally stolen anything. She had simply forgotten to scan an item while using the self-checkout. Although WWE quickly reversed the decision and reinstated her, the damage was already done. Online backlash had been swift and merciless, with few willing to wait for the facts. By the time the truth emerged, almost no one paid attention. Had WWE waited just one more day to verify the situation, Emma's reputation might never have been scarred by such an unnecessary stain. 4. Sasha Banks, when creative disputes pushed an A-list star out of WWE. In 2022, the wrestling world was shaken when Sasha Banks, one of WWE's most prominent and influential names, was released from the company. The cause stemmed from intense disagreements over creative control. Known for her perfectionism and desire for well-structured storytelling, Sasha was deeply dissatisfied with the direction WWE had planned for her and her partners. Tensions reached their breaking point when Sasha and Naomi walked out of a live television event, refusing to participate in the scheduled storyline. It was a rare and risky move, but for Sasha, it was the only way to stand her ground and protect her professional image. Instead of seeking reconciliation or at least opening a dialogue to resolve the conflict, WWE chose a hardline approach, terminating her contract. For a top-tier star who had helped redefine the women's division, it was a cold and highly controversial ending. Sasha Banks was not only a skilled in-ring performer but also a cultural icon who inspired millions of fans worldwide. Her departure in such a manner left supporters disheartened and raised questions about how WWE treats talent with strong creative voices. After leaving WWE, Sasha quickly seized new opportunities and continued to shine in other arenas, proving her value extended far beyond the ring she once called home. Yet, the events of 2022 remain a stark reminder that even A-list stars are not immune to the unforgiving nature of the wrestling industry. 5. Matt Hardy, when personal pain reached its breaking point. Matt Hardy's firing remains one of the most infamous and controversial episodes in WWE history. But beneath the surface, it wasn't just a poor business decision, it was a devastating emotional blow. The catalyst was Edge's affair with Lita, Hardy's girlfriend at the time. In other words, Hardy suffered a double hit, heartbreak in his personal life and turmoil in his career. Truly, a case of kicking someone when they're already down. When the affair became public, Hardy reacted openly. Anyone who has experienced betrayal knows how impossible it is to bottle up that kind of rage and hurt. Fans rallied behind him, with chants of "We want Matt" echoing through arenas nationwide. The public pressure grew so intense that WWE was forced to reverse its decision and bring him back. Upon his return, Hardy and Edge turned their real-life feud into an on-screen storyline. Transforming such a bitter personal chapter into wrestling entertainment was no easy feat, but both men managed to pull it off. Still, WWE never truly capitalized on Hardy's momentum during that period, leaving many fans feeling he was denied the push he had earned. Looking back, while the saga produced some gripping television moments, the way it unfolded was undeniably cruel. For Hardy, it wasn't just another wrestling angle, it was a real scar, etched deeply into both his career and his life. 6. Mr. Kennedy, from The Chosen One to a fall with no way back. Mr. Kennedy. Kennedy. The name itself was an unmistakable signature. His story is a prime example of how a career seemingly destined for greatness can suddenly collapse, leaving more questions than answers even years later. For fans who only started watching WWE in recent years, it may be hard to imagine that there was once a time when Ken Kennedy was seen as the chosen one to become the next big star. He had it all: an imposing look, exceptional mic skills, and a distinct in-ring style. His Money in the Bank victory only solidified that status. In fact, the storyline was already in place. Kennedy would be revealed as Vince McMahon's illegitimate son, a bizarre but potentially career-making angle that could have cemented him as a top name. Then came the unexpected shoulder injury. In a rush of concern, WWE had Edge defeat Kennedy, stripping him of the coveted briefcase. The twist. Just weeks later, Kennedy was fully cleared to compete again, making the entire change feel like a needless waste of momentum. Trouble continued to follow. In a match against Randy Orton, Kennedy accidentally caused Orton to fall and hit his head on the mat. That single incident led management to lose confidence in him. To make matters worse, his name later appeared in connection with the signature pharmacy scandal. He wasn't the only wrestler implicated, but it was enough to turn an already bad situation into a disaster. The result was swift. Kennedy was released. No second chances, no return. A career filled with promise was cut short by a series of misfortunes, and to this day, many still believe WWE lost a potential megastar because of hasty decisions and unfortunate timing. 7. The Good Brothers, when the promise of family vanished into thin air. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, better known as the Good Brothers, have long been recognized as masters of making money in the wrestling business. To be fair, their 2020 release from WWE probably didn't send them into financial panic. However, the way it all unfolded left a bitter taste for many fans. In 2019, both men were on the verge of signing with AEW. But after a lengthy conversation with Triple H, they were convinced to stay with WWE. What swayed them wasn't just the numbers in the contract, it was the promise that they would always be part of the WWE family, along with assurances of stability and job security, an invaluable offer in the unpredictable world of professional wrestling. That promise didn't last long. Only a year later, amid a wave of mass talent cuts, Gallows and Anderson were among those let go. It was a shock, not only because it directly contradicted what they had been told, but also because it raised doubts about the weight of backstage assurances in WWE. Some have speculated that the decision stemmed from power struggles between Vince McMahon and Paul Levesque, but whatever the cause, it became a textbook example of a promise blown away by the wind. Fortunately, the Good Brothers were never the type to stay down for long. In no time, they found a new home, continued thriving, and brought in significant profits. By the time they eventually returned to WWE, they had proven that in wrestling, as in life, the true measure of greatness lies in the ability to turn the tables when the odds are stacked against you. 8. Mike and Maria Canelis, when coldness took center stage. The 2020 firing of Mike and Maria Canelis stands as one of the clearest examples of the cold, impersonal treatment WWE has been criticized for over the years. What made the situation particularly hard to accept wasn't just that they were released, it was the way it was handled. According to accounts, WWE first called Mike to inform him he had been officially let go. Immediately afterward, instead of ending the call and addressing each case separately, they asked him to hand the phone to Maria so they could deliver the same news to her. It all happened within a single conversation, as if it were just another step in a mechanical, emotionless process. The timing made it even more difficult to stomach. Maria was only a few months postpartum, while Mike had just managed to regain stability after navigating a turbulent period in his personal life. Of course, no one can guarantee that circumstances alone should secure a job, but a little sensitivity and respect in handling the matter could have made the blow less painful. Terminations are an unavoidable part of any company, but that doesn't mean they have to be carried out with a detachment of ticking off numbers on a spreadsheet. Mike and Maria weren't just names on a roster, they were people who had dedicated time, effort, and passion to their work. In hindsight, this wasn't merely a story about losing a job, it was a stark illustration of the gap between how a company views its employees and how those individuals deserve to be treated. Sadly, in this case, empathy was nowhere to be found. 9. Dawn Marie, when cruelty struck in the middle of pregnancy. In 2005, WWE made a decision that left many shocked and outraged. They released Dawn Marie while she was pregnant. That single detail alone speaks volumes about the harshness of the situation. Anyone can understand that losing a job during pregnancy not only causes immense emotional strain but also creates serious financial hardship, especially when facing medical expenses and postnatal care costs. What made it even harder to accept was that Dawn Marie was far from an insignificant figure in WWE. Before joining the company, she had already built a solid reputation in the wrestling world, recognized for her unique personality and ability to stand out on screen. That was precisely why WWE brought her in, to capitalize on her talent and existing popularity. Yet just a few years later, it all ended abruptly and coldly. There was no waiting period, no support, only a swift termination that ignored her very specific circumstances. Today, such an action would almost certainly face fierce backlash and could even lead to serious legal consequences, as awareness of workplace rights and protections for pregnant women has grown significantly. Looking back, Dawn Marie's story remains one of the clearest examples of WWE's unforgiving and unsympathetic side during certain periods. It stands as a reminder that behind the bright lights of the wrestling stage, there are still shadowy corners filled with bitterness, realities the audience rarely gets to see. 10. Fit Finley, from trusted right-hand man to a bitter backstage exit. When WCW officially collapsed in 2001, Fit Finley was brought into WWE as an important piece of the puzzle, though most of his contributions happened behind the scenes. While fans rarely saw the full extent of his work on TV, those within the company knew him as a true workhorse, always ready to assist colleagues, refine storylines, and take on any task necessary to ensure a show's success. Finley played a major role in helping WWE's women's division gain more serious recognition, creating opportunities for female wrestlers to showcase skill rather than just appearance. At the same time, he continued competing in the ring and helped elevate several stars, including The Miz, especially in the lead-up to WrestleMania 27. At that time, in order to help The Miz draw more heat from the crowd, Finley suggested that during a non-televised event, Miz should interrupt the U.S. national anthem. The plan worked far better than expected. The audience erupted with relentless boos. The problem? That same night, members of the U.S. Army and National Guard, both key WWE partners, were in attendance. For those risking their lives to protect the country, this was no laughing matter. And when WWE needed someone to take the blame, the name chosen was Finley. He was fired, though a year later the company quietly brought him back, a move that suggested his dismissal was more about calming public outrage and preserving military relations than genuine misconduct. Looking back, considering the far more serious mistakes others had made without facing consequences, Finley had every reason to feel his removal was deeply unfair. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to support Wrestling Sphere, your go-to channel for the hottest WWE backstage stories.